Hello and thank you so much for joining me today. For this month's project, I decided to alter a light bulb that I've had in my stash for, well, forever. I really didn't know what I was going to do with it, but I finally had an idea, so I figured I'd give it a go. As you can see, I used lots of resin bits and a couple mechanicals and lots of color. I love color, so I decided that's where I was going to go with this. So let's jump in. As you can see, I started with a bit of gesso just to give me a base to start with. And then I'm going to start adding some random tissue bits. Now you're not really going to be able to see these random tissue bits, so you can use whatever you want. I used the solar because that's what I had in hand, but you could use anything because you're not going to see it. Anyhow, but before I get too far into this, let me just say I'm sorry ahead of time if I get out of focus or if it's a little dark. I tried my camera at a different angle and I really wasn't 100% sure, and it was a little awkward trying to keep in frame. But with it being a three-dimensional object, I didn't want you to just see the top down. So I hope you'll bear with me and be a little bit patient. But now I'm continuing to add the tissue paper, just using a little bit of gel medium. And it doesn't matter if you use matte or glossy, because it's going to get covered up in the end anyways. So I'm just adhering it with what I had on hand. And going to keep doing that with little bits of pieces randomly around the bulb. And this is really just building up some texture, and I thought that maybe I was going to just use the liquid acrylics and you would have been able to see the pattern through it. But I went ahead and pulled out some impasto paints in a little bit, and that covered up everything. But now I'm working with 3 different colors, 2 blues and 1 green. And I'm just covering my light bulb. And at this point in time, I have an idea in my head, but I'm not really sure how I'm going to execute it. So it's just kind of, I'm not really sure what's going to happen, and we're going to keep playing with it. And here's where I'm dabbing on some Impasto paint. That one is Jade, and I believe Lavender as well. But you know, I have to say that I came back to this project a couple times. I walked away a couple times, and I would say it probably took me maybe 2 or 3 days to finally get it to be how I wanted it. And you know, and sometimes that's just how projects are like this. You mess with it for a while, you get frustrated, you walk away. Or something has to dry, so you leave it overnight. For example, you can kind of see that I'm trying to attach these mechanical wings, and I'm using a little bit of wire to hold them in place while the heavy body gel dries. I'm attaching my roses. I broke one in the process, but I'm piecing it back together there. And I just poured these with some resin and formed them to a light bulb before I attached them. So cleaning up some of my gel and continuing to attach roses. Again, I'm really sorry that I'm off camera. This is an odd new angle for me, but I really wanted you guys to see, not just the top. Please, please forgive me. Now I'm going to go ahead and add some white crackle paste, because again, I'm not 100% sure what I want to do with this, and I'm just enjoying the texture and playing a little bit. And I haven't played with my white crackle paste in a long time, so I dug it out, and here it goes. I'm just randomly putting it around. I focused mostly on the areas where the resin bits attached to the bulb because I didn't like the gap that was there in some places. Anyhow, now I'm painting my moon, and I used a couple shades of blue for this, and then I'm going to go ahead and add some stamping to it. Again, a little bit off camera, hopefully you get the idea. And I just used a StazOn ink pad for that and a scribble stamp. And then I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit more randomness to this with a little bit of liquid acrylics and a blue and a green. And I'm just using my finger, and my hands were a hot mess after this. But I wanted to play with color. I haven't done it in a while, and I was enjoying the process. There's a little bit more green, and for a project like this I wanted to make sure I did the back because you're going to see it because it's 3-dimensional, so if you turn it you can see the back as well. So everything I'm doing to the front, I'm doing to the back. Continuing to add color, you're going to see me dry brush on a little bit of Jade, and I'm just random with this. There's no rhyme or reason where I'm putting color, it's just wherever I feel like putting it, and that's it. There's no reason. I'm not following any color theory. I'm not trying to make any shadows. I'm just playing with color and enjoying where I'm placing it. And now I'm coloring my frame. I've attached my frame to a bit of wire using some clay. I did that off camera because it was one of the things that I left overnight. This is one of the small frames from the memory hardware set. I have a lot of them because I use the large frame a lot and I don't use the small frame a lot, so this is perfect, and the moon actually fits really, really well in it, so it worked out pretty well. But I'm continuing to add color, and this is a little bit darker set of colors because it's behind the moon and I wanted it to be kind of like the background, I guess. But, you know, I really like the jade color, so I added that too again. As you can see, I'm just brushing that on, mixing it with a little bit of cobalt, and just dry brushing. I didn't mix any water because I wanted the darker purple to shine through. I hope that makes sense. So you're going to see me continue to play with color, and, you know, I'm really sorry that my hand's in the way, and this is a horrible angle, and it's really hard to record three-dimensional projects, but they're one of my favorite things to make, so I hope that you are continuing to bear with me. Next, I moved on to painting the roses. I chose 2 shades of purple Impasto for this. I'm not real precise with it, and it moved really quick, but I'm just painting the roses, and then I'm going to go ahead and paint the stems. And I used Impasto for all this. You know, these paints, I love them. They're thick. They cover amazing. They're really versatile. I don't know why I don't use them more. I know they're an older product, but they're really one of my favorites. So I'm just going to continue to sloppily paint these roses purple. So bear with me. I know that I've sped this up quite a bit, and I get off angle, and I'm out of camera, and, you know, it's a hot mess, but hopefully you have some patience with me. So I'm just going to continue to paint, and I'm not, again, really precise. I'm just kind of winging it here. And that's the nice thing about a project like this. It's, you know, it's abstract. There's no real way that it's supposed to turn out. It's just however you feel like painting it, and that's what I'm doing here. So why I continue to paint, and there's no way that I need to explain to you how to do this. If you can. Anyhow, so while I'm continuing to paint, if you haven't already, please consider giving this video a thumbs up and maybe even subscribing to the channel. That'd be greatly appreciated. And back to the green paint. No, seriously. But I'm just quickly painting. I know that I could have sped this up a little bit more, but like I said, you know, this was a 3-day project. And it's at 11 minutes, just under 12. So you kind of got to see the process there, right? I'm going to continue to move the green paint around. Lots and lots of green paint. And now I'm going to go back in and dry brush the light purple over top of the dark purple, just to add a little bit of depth to my roses. And I was really, really messy with this. And as you can see, quite heavy-handed as well. But I like the way it looks, so I left it like that. I'm going to add some more to the bottle because, again, I can just add whatever I want. And, you know, the trick with this is it's just dry. Just make sure that when you add another layer on top of your paint, it's dry, because you're not going to commingle colors. You're not going to get muddy browns. If the layer underneath is dry, you can add another color on top of it. These paints are not water reactive. They're not going to muddy up when you add something on top of them. So with something like this where I'm adding all kinds of colors, I'm just making sure that they're dry before I add the next layer on top. I hope that makes sense. Anyhow, I'm back to liquid acrylics at this time, and I'm really focusing mainly on where the white crackle paste was. And you can kind of see those crackles, and I'm mixing in the 2 greens, lime green and emerald, just to kind of add a little bit of depth to the leaves and really focus on those crackles. I'm painting the stars that I've attached, and these are from the Stars and Moons molds. I'm sure you guys already know that. It's been around forever, but just in case. Adding some more blue. I think that's Cobalt, maybe? At this point in time, my desk was a mess. There was paint everywhere. As you can see, I added a little bit of wire and beading to my frame off camera. that was impossible to keep in camera, and there was no point in even showing you that. So I hope you'll understand. Now I've moved on to the next day, and you can see that I've attached the frame on top of the light bulb, and I just used a little bit of clay for that, and the wire was of course what stabilized it. So I used the same mix of colors to cover up the clay, and then I just touched up any bits that I thought maybe needed a little bit of fixing. And now you can see that I'm adding a little bit of a contrasting color using some crimson and my palette knife. So by using my palette knife, I'm just keeping this really, really random, and I'm just touching wherever I thought needed a little bit of extra something something. So I know that this is really kind of dark here and things got off camera, but hopefully you can see some of the things that got added. I'm adding just a touch of white pearl wax just on his face to pick up the little accents, and I add some to the rose and the heart and a little bit on the wings. And I did add some of these things off camera because, like I said, I had a really hard time staying in frame, and if I wasn't in frame, there was no point in showing you that footage. So I apologize again. I hope that you will forgive me. I'm just continuing to add little touches of highlight using the white pearl wax, and that's really it, you guys. That wraps up this project. Thank you so much for being patient with me. I know that it was a little bit painful here and there, but I really do love the way this turned out, and I hope that you got the main idea of how it came together, and I appreciate the time that you spent with me. If you would consider giving the video, like I said, a thumbs up, it is greatly appreciated, and I would love to have you as a subscriber. Thank you so much. You have a wonderful day, and until next time, have fun. Bye-bye.